Okay, I gotta pull up my Goodreads so that I can talk to you about all these books. Hello, my fellow book lovers. Welcome to today's video. We are doing February wrap. Why am I being so weird right now? Okay. Today we're doing February's wrap up. It's very exciting because honestly, I love filming wrap up videos. They're just like a really nice way to finish the month for me reading. Like it kind of gives me like a cutoff. Like I can film this video and then like give myself the cutoff of like, okay, I'm good for the month. And now I get to start fresh for the next month. And we're also doing a mini collective book haul because I did get a few books that I'd love to show you. I think you just deserve to see them. But I'm gonna give you a fair warning right now. Every single book I read in February was in fact a hockey romance. Every single one of them. I am on a kick recently. I am obsessed. They're my Roman Empire at the moment, my favorite sports romance I've ever read, and I'm not ashamed. But with all that being said, why don't we just get on started into the books that I read this month? So starting off with the first book I read, Powerless by Elsie Silver. I love the Chestnut Spring series. This is the third book in the Chestnut Spring series, and this book follows the honorary brother Jasper Gervais, who is a professional hockey player, and Sloane, who is a professional ballerina. This is a childhood friends to lovers situation type thing. I think it's kind of weird that they call this a childhood friends to lovers, which I mean it is, but also the friendship through childhood to me, not that it's weird, it's just really off for me. So Sloane and Jasper have a pretty big age gap. So them being friends as children isn't that weird because Jasper is an honorary brother and Sloane is actually the cousin of the Eaton boys. So she's legitimately related to the other Eaton boys, like Rhett and Cade and Beau. Whereas she's not related to Jasper at all. So just get that out of your brain. But she's the same age as Violet, who is their sister in the book. But Jasper's the same age as Beau, and Beau is significantly older than Sloane. So the friendship is a little bit weird to me. There was actually a few instances in the book where it went back to them being younger than what they are right now in this book. And I was like, that's kind of weird. That's kind of a weird thing. Let's move on. Let's move on from that. I'm trying to think back onto what this book was about. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know if I could tell you. It was really good though. I really did like it. I really did like the book. I enjoyed their story. I enjoyed their slow burn romance. Basically, I want to say Jasper and Sloane have been revolving in each other's circle for their entire life, and both have been stuck in the friend zone. They think that they've stuck each other in the friend zone at a certain age, and now they both like each other, but they both don't realize that they're both like each other and that they're both in the friend. Well, they both realize they're in the friend zone, but they also don't realize that the other does like each other, if that made any sense. So basically the book starts out, this isn't a secret, it's on the back of the book. The book starts out with Sloane at her wedding. Her wedding day falls apart and Jasper helps her get away. Sloane just needs an entire break from everything. Jasper's like, hey, I can help you out and we'll do that together. So basically that's how their story's going. I did not explain that very well at all. I am so sorry. That was a really bad explanation of this book. But either way, I gave this book a 4 stars. I genuinely really enjoyed it. A lot of people say that this is their favorite out of the entire Chestnut Spring series. I'm gonna wait until I read the rest of the books because I only have 2 left. I'm gonna wait until I read the rest of them to see if this is my favorite. So far, I like this one as much as I liked the other 2. I thought I was gonna like this one a lot because I thought it was a hockey romance. Yes, there's hockey in it because Jasper is a professional hockey player, but there's not a lot in there. There's not a lot of hockey talked about in this book I thought there was going to be, which is fine because not a big deal. I gave this a 4 stars. I really liked it. I really love Elsie Silver's writing. I think she's extremely talented and she writes banter and she writes romance very well, and she makes it so not cringy, which is great. I love that. The next book I read was Breakaway by Grace Riley. This is a college hockey romance, and this is a friends with benefits situation. So the story follows Cooper and Penny. Penny is the daughter of Cooper's coach. He at the time doesn't realize this when they get together. He's like, oh my god, you're the coach's daughter. This is off limits. But they keep it a secret anyway. They are a secret friends with benefits situation, which is really fun. With that being said, I should have guessed this when I saw the friends with benefits situation. This entire book is just smut. Fair warning. Which is fine because the plot for the book in general kind of makes it, I don't know how to explain it. The plot obviously makes it seem like it's supposed to be, what am I saying? How come I cannot freaking speak. The plot for the book was mostly just smut. The smut is like what moved the plot along in a sense because of like the situations the two characters were in. So like that was like the main purpose of the plot. So fair warning, there's a lot of it in there. It is very, very spicy. If you're not into that, don't read this. Don't read this. Actually, every single hockey romance that I read this month is extremely spicy. So if you don't like spicy books, these are not for you. Breakaway is actually the second book in the Beyond the Play series by Grace Riley. The first one is called First Down, and that one's a football college romance. And then the third one, I don't remember what it's called, but that's a baseball college romance. Like I said, the book follows Cooper and Penny, and they're in a friends with benefits situation. If you're in the mood for no brain power read, this is perfect, okay? And if you like smut, perfect, honestly. I ended up rating this one a 3.25 stars. I liked this one more than the first one. I just liked like the characters' dynamic a little bit better. Despite the fact that it was all smut, I still did like the characters together. Like it didn't seem all just like attraction based like for their character development. Like sometimes I really don't like feel the chemistry or like get the characters together. Like I didn't, you know, like I actually felt like these characters were good together and that they actually helped drive the story along and didn't make it like super cringy and super like hard to get through, like not believing in their story. Next up I read He's Not My Type by Megan Quinn, and this is actually the fourth book in the Agitators series, which I did not realize when I started. So my main complaint with this book is like the fact that there is just so many characters that you have to follow. It's not like you have to read the other books first. They're all like interconnected series, but standalones. So like you can easily read this book and still follow the storyline of the two main characters, which follows Blakely and Halsey. With the amount of characters that are in this book, it probably does make it a little bit easier to read the other ones so that you can easily follow the other couples, because the other couples kind of play a role in the book. But like I said, this book follows Halsey and Blakely. Blakely, it works for the marketing department or PR department for the hockey team? I don't remember. And Halsey is the professional hockey player. To be honest, to tell you what this was about, I mean, I could tell you what it was about. I could. Like this one follows, like I said, Halsey and Blakely. Halsey has a crush on Blakely, but she's got a boyfriend. So he kind of keeps his distance. And then all of a sudden, Blakely doesn't have a boyfriend. And he starts to pursue her. She needs a new place to live, and you know, he offers up because he's got a spare bedroom. He's like, hey, you can stay with me until your apartment's ready. And that's where it goes. I'm not doing a very good job at explaining these. I am really bad at this. Blakely is like kind of convinced that like Halsey is just not into her, even though she doesn't like necessarily like think that she has feelings for him, but like Halsey's like really into her, you know what I mean? He's like really trying to like shoot his shot and everything like that, and she's just over here like, yeah, he's just like not my type, like he's great, but like, you know. This book also is extremely spicy, like I said before. It like doesn't get spicy until about like the 60% mark, and then after that, it's very spicy. Like the entire thing afterwards like is just almost like filled with spice. I don't mind, but at the same time I was kind of like, okay, like once it hit this mark, that's all the book became, and I was like, all right, like you're kind of like losing the plot of like what's going on here. It gets mentioned again, but it's almost more of like an afterthought to like all of the spice that is now happening in the book. I would have rather it like been a little bit shorter with less spice to like keep the plot moving rather than like put the plot on hold to like have all these spice scenes. You know what I mean? I think I ended up rating this a 3.5 stars. I liked it. Yeah, that's all I have to say. I don't know why. What is wrong with my brain? There's something wrong with my brain today. Brain is not functioning today. Brain is absolutely not functioning. Of the way that the male main character Halsey was, he was definitely more like reserved and quiet, and I really did like that about him. And Blakely wasn't necessarily like this big outgoing girl, but she did have definitely like a personality to her, which was kind of a nice contrast to see. And you know what, I really did like their relationship together. I did think that they fit very well, and that it was a very believable chemistry within the book. And then next up, this is I think my favorite book of the month. I absolutely loved this book, and that was Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. Fell in love instantly. Like this book became my entire personality within the first 100 pages. This is another college hockey romance, and let me tell you, Nate Hawkins is now in one of my top 5 book boyfriends. Like he throughout this book was so wonderful and caring and thoughtful, and I just loved him. Just loved him. I loved the communication in this book because they both like openly communicated with each other. Like they had to communicate for things to work, and that it like wasn't just one person's fault or like one person's like, you know, job to communicate. Like they both had to like work towards and like communicate together and like work as a team to be together, especially like with what happens in the plot of this book. So I really, really enjoyed that. This book follows Nate Hawkins and Anastasia. She is a figure skater. He's the captain of the hockey team. One of the hockey rinks ends up getting destroyed, so it needs to be fixed. So they need to share a hockey rink for a little while. And Anastasia is annoyed by Nate. Nate is super into Anastasia, obviously, and she's just like kind of annoyed by him. This is kind of like a mini enemies to lovers. They're not enemies. Anastasia is just annoyed by Nate, and Nate is just like super into her. She just kind of like doesn't like him, and she just gets annoyed by him. But like she knows that he's actually a nice guy, and that like all of his friends love him, and that he's a really like nice, caring person. So at least she can like openly admit to that, which is something that I actually really, really liked, the dynamic, because Anastasia, she is such a sassy like little firecracker, and he just like is so like puts up with everything, and he's just like, all right, like, and like he just goes for it, you know, he just goes for it. And Anastasia's a figure skater. Obviously Nate is a hockey player, and they have to share an ice rink for the time being. But during that time, Anastasia's figure skating partner ends up getting injured, and Nate decides to step in and help her out so that she can still practice because she's preparing for a really big competition. Basically, Nate is just determined to not wear her down, but determined to get her and him to be friends. I genuinely did love this book. I really, really enjoyed their relationship throughout the entire thing and the way that they grew together as characters. I ended up rating this one a 4.25 stars. I would 100% like reread this book. I don't think I would make it into my, I mean, it could possibly, depending on how my year goes, make it into like my top books of the year. I genuinely love this book, and I would love to absolutely reread it. But I really did love the dynamic, and I loved the two characters. I became obsessed with this book, obviously, like I said. That's all I gotta say about it. I don't think I have anything else I could say. Oh, and another thing, I loved the epilogue in this, okay? Like, I loved seeing where they ended up. I know, like, epilogues are, like, sometimes, like, people's, like, hit or miss. Like, some people don't like them, but I absolutely loved this one. I absolutely loved finding out, like, the way that they ended up together. Like, in the end, like, chef's kiss, music to my ears, loved it. Next up, I ended up reading Icebound by Meredith Trapp. This is she's an indie author. This is her first book, I'm pretty sure. It was great. I enjoyed myself so much while reading this book. I kept like giggling and kicking my feet as well. This is a age gap book as well. That was pretty cool. Well, okay, not pretty cool. I'm like really into the age gap right now too. Hockey romances and age gaps, into it. Let me see what the description is of this book, because I could tell you what it's about, but that would give you spoilers. The book follows Rode and Nina. Rode is a professional hockey player, and then Nina is a 22-year-old college student. But when they meet, Nina she lies, but like she kind of says it as a joke of like what her job is, which granted, not the best idea on her end. She lies and says that she is a 30-year-old doctor. So he thinks that he's over here dating a 30-year-old doctor, or fake dating a 30-year-old doctor, but quickly gets revealed she is in fact a 22-year-old college student. Before finding out how old she is, he ends up like falling real hard for her real fast. They're in this like fake dating situation, and he finds out that she's super young. And he's like, oh, this is a little weird. I don't know if that was the best explanation I could have given you. Definitely wasn't. But very interesting storyline. I really, really enjoyed reading this book. It was very different. Very different. I haven't read a book with an age gap this big, especially like with the situation, because after he finds out how old she is, they do decide to just kind of be friends, because Nina actually is friends with someone and went to high school with someone who was on the professional hockey team with him. So he does end up seeing her a lot, so they just decide to be friends. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. My brain is just not working today. It really isn't working. Like I would be, maybe it's just because I read so many hockey romances, I literally just can't like separate them in my brain. Maybe that's what it's going on. I really did enjoy this book. I think I ended up rating this one, what did I rate it? 3.75. Like I said, I liked it. I thought it was good. I think it's a great debut novel, and I actually cannot wait for the second book to come out because two of the characters in the book I think are gonna make an amazing couple, and I am just praying that that is what the next book is. She hasn't said anything, but this is the first book in the series, and she has said that she's gonna make more. So I am very much hoping that two other characters get a book together. And the last book I read this month was Iced Out by Veronica Eden. And Veronica Eden is actually the author of the Matching All the Way book that I read at the end of last year, which I ended up loving. So I was like, okay, let me read this book. What I recommend, because they both take place in the same universe. So Iced Out is the first in the Heston U hockey series, I think it's called. What is she calling it? Heston U Hot Shots. So this is the first book in the Heston U Hot Shots, but the book Matching All the Way follows Coach Kincaid and Eve. Cole Kincaid is the coach at Heston U University. He's the assistant coach. So Cole Kincaid makes a little appearance in this one. So Iced Out follows Easton Blake, who is the captain of the Heston U hockey team, and then Maya Donnelly, who just happens to go to Heston U, but her brother is actually Easton's rival from another college. Crazy. I actually ended up loving this dynamic because if you loved Icebreaker, you will love this, okay? Like, they're very similar, but they're also like different enough where it doesn't feel like you're reading the same book. And what I also loved about this, where it wasn't like, didn't go after her because it was his sister's rival to like mess with his rival, you know? It, like, he went after her because he was genuinely interested in her, and then found out and he was like, oh my gosh, like what? And then still was like, she's it. Like, she's the one. You know what I mean? So basically, Easton sees Maya at the bar, dancing on the bar top. And he's like, dang, that is the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. And ends up like asking her to leave with him. And he's like, hey, let me just walk you back to your dorm. And she's just like, I don't date hockey players. Actually, sorry, bye. And he's like, well, we'll see about that. So she challenges him and she's just like, yeah, okay, let's see. I dare you to try and get me to go out with you. And that's exactly what he does. That's exactly what he does. I again loved them together. I thought they were such a cute couple, and I just loved the dynamic and like the relationship that they had. Easton Blake very much reminds me of Nate Hawkins. Like, he is very, very similar to Nate Hawkins. So if you loved Icebreaker, you will absolutely love this because they both kind of have the same like kind of personality types. You know, they're very much like caring and love to put other people first and care about their team and the people that they're with. That's about it. I don't know what else to say. My brain, like I said, is not working. I'm very sorry. Ended up rating this book a 4 stars though. Like I said, I very much liked it. That's all I gotta say. Can't wait for some of the other books to come out in this series because I'm excited to see some of the other dynamics between the other characters who were in this book. All right, you guys, that is all the books that I read in February. Like I said, all hockey romances. I'm not ashamed. I am not ashamed in the slightest. I am actually so in love with hockey romances. Have I learned anything about hockey? No. Do I love them? Yes. Let me just also tell you really quick that since I read so many, I am now going to a hockey game. Me and my husband bought hockey tickets because I insisted. I said, let's go to a hockey game. And he said, okay, so we're going, which I'm very excited about. With all that being said, that is it for my February wrap up. Let's quickly, because this video is already long, considering my brain just cannot function, go over all the books that I got in February. I didn't get very many. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 6 books that I wanted to show you. First book I got, If I Had Told Her by Laura Nowlin. This is the sequel to If He Had Been With Me. I absolutely loved that book. It was one of my top 5 books of the year. I was so emo after I read that book for the first time. And I just can't wait to read this one. I want to do a reread of that one first before I get to this one. So I'm actually not too sure when I'll end up reading this, but hopefully sometime soon because I'm going to start doing rereads of my 5-star books. But yeah, this one I know is told from 3 different POVs. Heard mixed things about this book, that it's an extended epilogue basically, but I'll have to obviously read and see for myself. But I'm very excited. I'm very excited because I love Autumn and Finney and I just want to see more of their story. Next up, we have Betting on You by Lynn Painter. I absolutely love Lynn Painter's writing. I had been eyeing this one for a little bit and I just decided to pull the trigger finally and decided to get it. I love Lynn Painter young adult books. Better Than the Movies was one of my top books of last year as well. So literally anything Lynn Painter writes, I think I would buy. She's like an auto-buy author at this point now. Next up, we have Never by Jessa Hastings. Never read a Jessa Hastings book before. I do want to read the Magnolia Park series. I decided, like, with how pretty this cover is, I just like could not pass it up. Like, look how pretty and beautiful that cover is. So I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. And plus, Peter Pan is my favorite Disney fairy tale or Disney childhood movie. Peter Pan retelling. I'm here for it. Yeah, so I'm very, very excited and hopefully it goes well. I've heard mixed things about this book, but either way, the cover is beautiful. So even if I don't like the book, the cover is still incredibly beautiful. Up next, we have None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. Lisa Jewell is another auto-buy author for me. I just like couldn't pull the trigger for some reason on this book. I heard so many amazing things about it and I am, again, just really excited to read this one. I've heard that this is amazing. Okay, like that it's so twisted and like people like jaw-dropping when they read it. Okay, like I said, I love Lisa Jewell. Love Lisa Jewell. She is one of my favorite authors. So very excited to finally read this. I haven't read a thriller in a really long time. So I think when I do read a thriller, this will be the next one that I read. And the last two books I have are actually fantasy novels. And this is actually the sequel to Lightlark. This is Nightbane by Alex Astor. And I haven't read Lightlark yet, but I bought Nightbane because I wanted to reread it right after. I didn't want to wait. I don't know if this is going to be a trilogy or if it's just a duology. I think it's going to be more than a duology. I guess we'll see how this one ends when it comes to it because I've heard amazing things about this series. Honestly, so I'm really excited to read it. This is also, I think, a young adult fantasy. And the last book that I ended up getting, which was the sole purpose of me going book shopping, was Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I'm very excited. I've heard very good things about this book, like the mix of like the Hunger Games and the Red Queen and everything like that. So I'm very excited for this fantasy. This is a young adult fantasy. I think this is the next book I'm gonna read because I've been in the mood for a fantasy, but to be quite honest, the words are little. They were very little words. So, and I know the next book actually comes out, I think in July or something. So I'm excited. So very excited. Well, with that being said, that is it for this video. Thank you for sticking around with my word vomit and jumble with not being able to function as a human being for some reason. I appreciate it. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you've read any of these books and please let me know your thoughts on them. I love talking about books with other people and like hearing other people's thoughts and opinions. So please let me know if you've read any of these books and what you think. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to follow me on all of my social medias as well as subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.